The millionaire leaves safe open and is shocked by the female beggar's actions. New York City's skyline was swallowed by thick, choking mist that night. The streets below faded into shadows and whispers. Above it all, in his glass fortress, Arthur Henderson made a gamble no one dared to try. His safe, usually sealed tight as a vault, stood wide open. Flickering overhead lights cast eerie halos on stacks of cash that seemed to pulse with quiet menace. Arthur's eyes glinted from the shadows, cold and calculating. This wasn't a mistake. No, it was a trap. Someone inside his empire was leaking secrets, slicing at his fortune like a predator hidden in the grass. Tonight, he was drawing that shadow out. The safe was the bait. Down the corridor, Emily Johnson moved quietly. 15 years sweeping these halls, wiping floors, cleaning away the grime no one else wanted to touch. Her hands were rough with years. Her shoulders stooped from hardship. Her mom, sick and fragile back home, needed help. The bills piled higher every day. This job barely kept the roof over their heads. Then something caught her eye. The safe door, glaring wide open like an invitation. Emily froze, her heart hammered, a wild staccato in her ribs. The cash inside gleamed, untouched, impossible. A flood of desperation crashed over her. Could this be the answer? Just one handful? Just this once? Tears blurred her vision. Warm tracks tracing down her cheeks as terror and longing wrestled inside her. Her breath hitched, hands trembling. She stretched out just a flicker of a reach toward the pile. But the weight in her chest was heavier than the money itself, a knot tightening, twisting, warning her to stop. Out of the shadows, Arthur watched. Not a word, not a move. His usual icy mask cracked just for a second. The woman before him wasn't a thief or a vulture. She was hope, squeezed tight by crushing hardship. Her pain seeped through the silence, raw and pure. For the first time in years, Arthur's relentless hunger for power felt hollow. Something deep inside stirred, a longing for more than just another zero in his bank account. Just as he stepped forward, ready to speak, a sudden noise shattered the fragile moment, a clatter echoing down the hall. Both of them spun toward the sound, startled, breath caught in their throats. The night held its breath. Trust, betrayal, mercy, all tangled in that endless shadow stretching across the room. Who was coming? Who could they really trust? The game had only just begun. And somewhere in the heartbeat between dawn and darkness, the walls of Arthur's empire threatened to crumble. Could a world built on cold greed survive a spark of human kindness? Or would that spark burn everything to ash first? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss out on any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The night held its breath. A low hum buzzed in the air, creepy and electric. Arthur and Emily stood frozen, their eyes now darting toward the sound echoing down the dimly lit corridor. It felt like time had stretched, as if the world outside had tumbled into a silence so deep you could hear a pin drop. And then the door swung open, a bee. Panic? Fear? No time to decipher. "Arthur!" she blurted, her voice a frantic whisper. "You need to get out of here, now!" The urgent plea shattered the fragile moment between Arthur and Emily. He bristled, pushing back against the sudden wave of concern that surged through him. "What are you talking about, Camila?" Before she could answer, a loud crash rattled the hallway. Heavy footsteps thundering closer. Emily's heart dropped. She took a step back, a sick feeling creeping into her stomach. The glint of cash in the safe warped into a blur behind her, overshadowed by the growing dread in the air. "We're compromised," Camila rushed, her voice breaking. "They know about you. About this place." The walls felt like they were closing in. Arthur's mind raced. Betrayal? Who could he trust now? A rush of anger bubbled within him. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. Not after all he had built. "Get the phone! Call security!" He shouted at Camila, but her expression darkened. "No time! You don't understand! They're already here!" A shadow flickered behind her, and before anyone could react, a man burst into the room, wearing a black mask and brandishing a gun. The sight snagged in Emily's throat like a fishbone. Her hands instinctively raised, palms out, filled with dread. "Back away!" he snarled. Arthur stepped forward, adrenaline racing through him. "Who sent you?" His voice was hard, a mask of bravado he barely felt. The figure only smirked, eyes shining with malice. "Your past, Henderson. Your past is coming home to roost." Time snapped back. An icy tendril of fear wrapped around Emily's heart. This was bigger than a simple robbery. This was personal. The rogue's laughter reverberated, and for a moment everything felt unreal, as if reality were wearing a mask too. And then, as if a dam had broken, Camila lunged, tackling the intruder with surprising ferocity. The gun went off, firing wild as chaos erupted. Arthur's world collapsed. Emily ducked behind the safe, heart pounding as adrenaline flooded her veins. However, through the panicked screams and flashes of violence, her gaze locked onto something. A small hard drive that had slipped from the man's pocket, tumbling to the floor like a lost dream. Something deep inside her urged her forward. "Are we just going to stand here?" she yelled over the clamor. "We need to—" Before she could finish, the masked man wrestled himself free from Camila's grip, turning just in time to catch Emily's gaze. Something jolted within his expression, a flicker of recognition. Everything shattered in that moment. The world tilted off its axis. "Emily?" he said, voice dripping with disbelief. Her heart stuttered. How did he know her name? "Get out!" Arthur shouted again, his voice like a roar. But she couldn't move. Emily stood suspended in shock. The game had only just begun. And as the truth hung thick in the air, nothing would ever be the same again. The game had only just begun. And as the truth hung thick in the air, nothing would ever be the same again. "Emily?" The masked man's voice was laced with disbelief, a harsh whisper echoing down the hall. The room spun. Her heart raced. Why did he know her name? In the chaos, she felt something pull at her. A connection buried deep within the shadows of her past. "Get out!" Arthur roared, urgency ripping through him. He stepped between Emily and the intruder, eyes hard, ready to protect his empire at all costs. But Emily stood frozen, a stone statue caught in the eye of a storm. "Emily?" The man pressed again, stepping closer. "They're watching. You have to listen to me. We don't have much time." Confusion raged inside her. Both names and faces spun like tops in her mind, colliding and shattering. She felt small and exposed. "Who are you?" she shouted, her voice drowning in fear. "What do you want?" A flicker of recognition danced in his masked eyes, sharp like a knife. "You know me, Em. We were family." That word hit like a brick. Family? The last semblance of a connection, a tether to a past she thought she had locked away. "No," she said, shaking her head wildly. "That can't be true." But as he stepped into the light, his face slowly revealed. A face she hadn't seen in over a decade. "It's Mark, your brother." Her breath caught like a gasp in her throat. "Mark? The brother who had vanished into thin air, swallowed by the chaos of their childhood, gone when she needed him most. You were supposed to be dead." Her voice cracked like glass. The room shifted, the weight of memories making it hard to breathe. Arthur's harsh laughter split the air. "This is a joke, right? You can't be serious." But it was too late. The silence that followed was deafening, smothering. Camilla struggled to her feet, glancing between Emily and Mark, disbelief painted across her features. "This isn't happening," she whispered. Mark's presence churned everything in the air. For Emily, it was a jolt of hope mixed with fear. "You left me! You left Mom!" Her voice trailed off, misty with unshed tears. "I had no choice," he shot back, desperation in his gaze. "I couldn't stay. They were coming after us. After you." Before she could wrap her mind around his words, more footsteps echoed down the hallway. Heavy and thunderous. Someone else was coming. "Your brother is here, but it's a trap," Camilla warned, her eyes darting. "We need to leave, now." Mark's gaze flicked to the entrance, a certain understanding passing between him and Emily. "If they find out you're here, Em?" He paused, horror creeping into his expression. "They'll use you against me." "But I can't just—" Emily began to protest, her heart racing. "I won't let them take you too." His voice rose with urgency, the sharp edge of raw emotions slicing through. "You have to trust me." Something inside her broke at those words. Trust? After all these years, the secret brother? The one who left her behind? How could she trust him now? Before she could respond, the door slammed open, and more masked figures poured into the room, furious and unyielding. The chaos erupted anew, shouting blending together into a cacophony of fear. Bodies surged, pushing Emily back toward the safe, pressing against her. Vicious faces filled the doorway, shadows of the past coming alive, ready to engulf her. The world spun crazily, colors blurring, lines drawn where loyalty and betrayal crossed. In that moment, Emily felt it, the darkness. It crawled around the edges of her vision, whispering secrets she never wanted to hear. Betrayal wasn't just a game anymore. It was alive, breathing. As Mark's desperate gaze searched for her, holding pain and fear, everything shifted again. Arthur's eyes narrowed, fury igniting. "No, you are not taking her," he yelled, lunging toward the group. But as chaos fed on itself and the world spiraled into mayhem, Emily's mind raced with a new question. What if Mark was right? What if there was more to this mess than anyone knew? The truth felt like a weight, heavy and bitter. Then, in a blinding flash, everything changed when a loud bang echoed through the room and the lights flickered violently, plunging them into darkness. Was this the end? Or just the beginning of a nightmare they couldn't wake from? Fear gripped her, wrapping tighter around her heart than the chaos outside. And in that moment, she wondered, could they survive the truth still lurking in the shadows? The darkness enveloped them, a thick fog of uncertainty. As the lights flickered and fell silent, fear wrapped around Emily like a heavy cloak. She could hear the pounding of her heart in her ears, the chaotic shouts mixing with the shadows to create a symphony of dread. Suddenly, the loud bang reverberated, shaking the very foundation of their reality. Then, everything went still. The world held its breath, waiting. "Stay close," Arthur growled, his voice strained, a fierce protector trying to shield them from the unknown. His eyes darted around like a hawk, searching for any sign of danger. Mark reached for Emily, his hand outstretched like a lifeline in the tempest of confusion. "Em, please, we need to move." His voice was thick with urgency, desperation spilling from every word. But just as she took a step towards him, a piercing scream ripped through the silence. It cut like glass, slicing right through the chaos. They all froze. The intruders were silent too, eyes wide with surprise, caught off guard. From the shadows, a figure emerged, stepping into the dim light. No mask, no weapon, Just a woman with a wild look in her eyes, hair matted, clothes torn. It took a moment for Emily to truly register her face. Mom? The name slipped from Emily's lips like a shattered whisper, disbelief flooding her. The woman raised her hands, trembling. Em, you have to listen to me. Her voice was frantic, raw with years of pain and fear. Mom! Emily's voice was thick with emotion, memories flooding back, years spent waiting for her, hoping she'd return. But, you left us! You! They're coming! The woman interrupted, eyes darting like a trapped animal. You have to trust me. Shock rolled through Arthur's features, confusion painting his face. What are you doing here? He spat, anger boiling beneath his surface. Get down! The woman suddenly yelled, and before anyone could react, she lunged forward, pushing Emily to the ground, just as gunfire erupted from the hallway. Bullets ricocheted off metal filing cabinets, sending shards of metal flying. Chaos erupted anew. Shouts of confusion and fear filled the air, bodies clamoring for safety. The masked intruders were closing in, chaos weaving through them like a dark thread, anger tangible in the air. Emily's heart raced. Everything spun out of control. She had long since stopped recognizing reality. This whole moment felt like a fever dream. Her mother was here, alive, but danger loomed larger than life. Mom, we need to go, Emily cried, pulling at her mother's arm, panic written across her face. But her mother hesitated, eyes diverting towards Mark. You shouldn't be here! What? Emily shouted, confusion wrapping tighter around her brain. What's going on? Suddenly, as if summoned, another figure slammed through the door, drenched in darkness and rage. It was a man, towering, eyes like flint. Get away from her, he bellowed, but his words were drowned out by the tumult. Then, in the chaos, something burst forth. The blinding light overhead flickered back to life, illuminating the horrific scene. Everyone paused. The tension strung tight, but as the light illuminated Mark, Emily's breath caught. Something was off. The desperate look in his eyes twisted into something darker, a glint that revealed the truth she never saw coming. Mom! Mark's voice was curled with venom. I should have finished it. Should have let them take you both. The world tilted beneath Emily's feet. Betrayal? Reality shattered like glass, leaving sharp edges everywhere, cutting deep. Mark, no! Her voice shrieked through the chaos, but he smirked, revealing a side she'd never known. This was always about power, Em. You just didn't see it. But now, before he could finish, the sound of sirens pierced the night outside, echoing down the corridors. The game had turned, and they were blindly caught in the middle. Nothing would ever be the same again. Just when Emily thought she understood the players, the rules changed entirely. She was trapped in a web of secrets, lies, and a family that wasn't what it seemed. And in that moment, she realized the biggest threat wasn't the masked intruders. It was the very blood that coursed through her veins. The darkness enveloped them, a thick fog of uncertainty. As the lights flickered and fell silent, fear wrapped around Emily like a heavy cloak. She could hear the pounding of her heart in her ears, the chaotic shouts mixing with the shadows, to create a symphony of dread. Stay close, Arthur growled, his voice strained, a fierce protector, trying to shield them from the unknown. His eyes darted around like a hawk. Searching for any sign of danger, Mark reached for Emily, his hand outstretched like a lifeline in the tempest of confusion. Em, please, we need to move. His voice was thick with urgency, desperation spilling from every word. But just as she took a step towards him, a piercing scream ripped through the silence. It cut like glass, slicing right through the chaos. They all froze. The intruders were silent too, eyes wide with surprise, caught off guard. From the shadows, a figure emerged, stepping into the dim. No mask, no weapon, just a woman with a wild look in her eyes. Hair matted, clothes torn. It took a moment for Emily to truly register her face. "Mom?" The name slipped from Emily's lips like a shattered whisper, disbelief flooding her. The woman raised her hands, trembling. "Em, you have to listen to me." Her voice was frantic, raw with years of pain and fear. "Mom." Emily's voice was thick with emotion, memories flooding back. Years spent waiting for her, hoping she'd return. But, you left us. They're coming," the woman interrupted, eyes darting like a trapped animal. "You have to trust me." Shock rolled through Arthur's features, confusion painting his face. "What are you doing here?" he spat, anger boiling beneath his surface. "Get down," the woman suddenly yelled, and before anyone could react, she lunged forward, pushing Emily to the ground, just as gunfire erupted from the hallway. Bullets ricocheted off metal filing cabinets, sending shards of metal flying. Chaos erupted anew. Shouts of confusion filled the air, bodies clamoring for safety. The masked intruders were closing in, chaos weaving through them like dark threads, anger tangible in the air. Emily's heart raced. Everything spun out of control. She had long since stopped recognizing reality. This whole moment felt like a fever dream. Her mother was here, alive, but danger loomed larger than life. "Mom, we need to go," Emily cried, pulling at her mother's arm, panic written across her face. But her mother hesitated, eyes diverting towards Mark. You shouldn't be here." "What?" Emily shouted, confusion wrapping tighter around her brain. "What's going on?" Suddenly, as if summoned, another figure slammed through the door, drenched in darkness and rage. It was a man, towering, eyes like flint. "Get away from her," he bellowed, but his words were drowned out by the tumult. Then, in the chaos, something burst forth. The blinding light overhead flickered back to life, illuminating the horrific scene. Everyone paused, the tension strung tight. But as the light illuminated Mark, Emily's breath caught. Something was off. The desperate look in his eyes twisted into something darker, a glint that revealed the truth she never saw coming. "Mom!" Mark's voice was curled with venom. "I should have finished it. Should have let them take you both." The world tilted beneath Emily's feet. Betrayal? Reality shattered like glass, leaving sharp edges everywhere, cutting deep. "Mark, no!" Her voice shrieked through the chaos. But he smirked, revealing a side she'd never known. "This was always about power, Em. You just didn't see it. But now, a sudden explosion erupted from the hallway. A flash of light sent everyone reeling. The force knocked Emily to the ground. The world spun, noise fading into a chaotic silence. When the dust settled, Emily's eyes blinked open. She gasped. In the center of the chaos lay not just Mark, but the figures that had just moments ago stormed in. One was pinned down, face hidden, and the other lay lifeless, a pool of blood spreading beneath him. But it was the figure standing over Mark, the imposing shadows that absorbed him, that sent chills down Emily's spine. "Mom?" she croaked, realization dawning. The last piece fell into place like a knife twisting in her gut. "Your mother." Mark's voice was ice now, venomous. "She's not who you think she is." And with that, everything shifted again. Emily's heart raced, confusion pooling into dread. Was her mother a part of this world? "Get up, we have to go," Mark shouted. But as the walls closed in, Emily's gaze met her mother's. The truth hung heavy, raw in the air. Whatever bond they had was unfurling, barely holding together as the sirens grew louder. In that moment, everything she thought she knew about family crumbled. She was faced with a truth that twisted like a knife. Who was she really? The night raged on, secrets clawing to the surface. Images swirled in her mind, begging for attention. Could she trust anyone? What were their true intentions? And as their world continued to flood with chaos, Emily knew one thing for sure. Everything had changed, and she was standing on the precipice of a reality she never wanted to face. The chaos crashed around them, a storm of noise and confusion wrapping tighter around Emily. Her mother's eyes darted between Mark and Arthur, fear flickering like a candle flame caught in a draft. "Get down!" she shouted again, urgency cutting through the air. But Emily couldn't think. The world felt like it was collapsing in on itself. Tangled together, family, betrayal, desperation. The front door splintered as more intruders pushed in. Masks hid their faces, but their eyes gleamed with intent. Emily squeezed her eyes shut, heart racing at the sound of footsteps charging deeper into the room. "Mom, what did you mean they were coming?" Emily cried, voice trembling. "They know about you, Em. They'll use you." Her mother's words came out in frantic bursts, each one hitting Emily like a physical blow. Mark stood, fists clenched, rage bubbling beneath the surface. "Mom, you have to tell her the truth." Emily's head snapped to him, confusion thickening the air. What truth? Before anyone could respond, the ground shook with a loud crash. A window shattered, glass raining down like deadly confetti. They turned, just in time to see a silhouette standing amongst the debris. A tall figure, face shadowed but unmistakably familiar. "Dad," Emily whispered, disbelief colliding with despair. "He shouldn't be here, couldn't be here." "She's lying, Em." He stepped forward, the tension crackling like static in the room. "She never wanted you safe. I tried to protect you from her, from all of this." Emily's heart dropped. Family secrets were spiraling, unraveling around her. "You're both lying. Stop!" Arthur bellowed. He was a wall of authority, but his eyes flickered with uncertainty. This isn't the time for family drama. But the sirens were growing louder, red and blue lights flashing outside, reflecting inside like a warning. The intruders hesitated only momentarily. Then, one of them raised a gun, aiming it squarely at Arthur. In that millisecond, time tripped over itself. Emily felt everything collapse. It was a nightmare, spiraling beyond control. "No!" she screamed, throwing herself in front of Arthur, just as the gun fired. The bullet tore through the air, its echo a death knell. Instead of hitting Arthur, the shot rang out, but it struck someone else completely. Her mother stumbled back, eyes wide with shock, a crimson bloom spreading across her chest. She gasped, a soft, broken sound, collapsing onto the cold floor. "Mom!" Emily shrieked, now kneeling beside her mother. Everything blurred, colors, voices. Pain filtered through like a terrible wave. "What? No, please!" Emily shook her, hands trembling, tears washing down her cheeks, a torrent of regret flooding through her. "I didn't mean for any of this. Please, just hold on." But her mother looked up, eyes softening. "Em, listen to me," she whispered with fragile strength. Trust your brother." Those words landed like a lead weight. A twist of dread gripped at Emily's chest. "Why?" Before she could register more, Mark stepped forward. "They're after something bigger. They need you, and that's why." A roar of chaos erupted as the intruders surged forward again, ready to claim what they thought was theirs. But all Emily felt was her mother slipping away, a lifeline severed in an instant. "Mark!" she choked out, heart racing. "Is this true?" But Mark was already grappling with one of the attackers. The room exploded in violence, echoes of anger drowning her words. Emily's reality twisted. Everything was falling apart. Sirens blared, but Emily couldn't move. The world narrowed down to her mother's fading breath and Mark's frantic struggles. And just as the lights flickered and crumbled again, the truth slammed home. A wild thought flickered in her mind. What if it wasn't just about family? What if they were all pawns in a game much larger than they ever knew? With her heart in her throat, Emily watched everything collapse into chaos. Fear gripped her tighter than ever before. Blood would spill. Someone would have to pay. And as Mark shouted something she couldn't hear over the din, confusion masked the urgency of it all. There were no simple heroes here anymore, only shadows, and the darkness was closing in. Emily sank to the floor, her heart pounding as she cradled her mother's lifeless form. The chaos swirled around her, but she felt nothing but icy dread. The room blurred, becoming a canvas painted in fear and regret. "No, no," she breathed, panic gripping her throat. "Mom, wake up!" Her fingers trembled as she pressed against her mother's wound, warmth spilling over her hands. She was losing her. "Please, get up," Mark shouted, suddenly right there, yanking her by the arm, pulling her out of the cruel grip of reality. "We have to move, now!" But Emily protested. "We can't leave her." Tears streamed down her cheeks, mingling with the blood on her hands. The screaming in her head drowned out everything else. She was losing the only thing that mattered. "Listen," Mark's voice cracked, a crack of desperation that hit her like a slap. "If we stay, we die too. They want us all. They're coming." The sound of footsteps thundering in the hallway echoed around them. Each step sent a jolt through her, a visceral reminder that time was running out. But before she could process it all, her mother's eyes fluttered open, searching. "Em," she gasped, the whisper barely escaping her lips. You have to understand." "Understand what?" The question hung in the air like a thick fog, heavy with confusion. "What is happening?" I didn't want it to be this way. I thought." Her voice trailed off, breathing becoming shallow and strained. She clawed at Emily's arm, pulling her close. "Mark, he was always meant to—" Then a deafening crash shattered the tension, the door flinging open, the masked figures surging inside, eyes dark with greed. "Get down!" Arthur yelled, lunging toward Emily to shield her, a wall of flesh in a sea of chaos. But instead of protection, a surge of fury erupted from Mark. "No, don't! I can't let you!" Arthur started, but the result was explosive. An outburst of violence erupted like a volcano. Gunshots rang through the haze, echoing like a death knell as bodies collided. Emily froze in horror. Then she shifted, eyes darting, searching for a way, any way out. A figure stumbled into view. A man, tall, shrouded in an aura of menace. She felt an unsettling familiarity wash over her. "Do it for the family, Mark," the man barked, his voice a guttural growl that sent shivers down Emily's spine. Her breath caught. "Family?" Mark spat, rage igniting his features. "Is that what this is?" But the man laughed, a chilling snake-like laugh that sent a jolt of dread through Emily. "You think you know the truth?" Mark's tension snapped. "Enough!" The masked figures, confusion etching their faces, hesitated. Then Emily felt the floor shake. Something was wrong. Panic rose heavy in the air, a palpable tension that cracked like glass. Suddenly, everything shifted. The lights flickered, and the reality around them warped. The man raised his arm, a sharp glint of metal reflecting the fluorescent light. It was a knife, and he lunged at Mark. "No!" Emily screamed, time slowing down as she leapt forward, instinct taking over. But before she could react, the man vanished into a blur, a sudden twist of fate, colliding with someone behind her. A gasp escaped her lips as she turned, her breath hitching. "Dad?" Her father stood there, framed in the doorway, a force of chaos alongside the dark figures. "What have you done?" he thundered, eyes ablaze with righteous fury. "You weren't supposed to know." That truth unraveled everything. In that moment, the air thickened, shadows twisting as old wounds tore open. She blinked, Her family was not who she thought they were. The man attacking Mark, the one she just saw, he was family too. Her world spun, shifting in ways she never imagined. It was a blow that shattered her heart. "No, you're not supposed to—" But in the surge of noise and conflict, she couldn't hear her own words, lost among the screams, the shouts, the chaos of it all. And just like that, the realization pierced through the turmoil. Everything she thought she knew was built on lies. The knife fell, the knife that changed everything. Each second hung heavy, and as the blade sank deep, the past came crashing down, revealing a truth Emily couldn't comprehend. Then, silence. A blackness held its breath, leaving her at the edge of a new reality, one she could never have anticipated. What now? She was caught in a storm, and the sky was tearing apart. Emily sank to the floor, her heart pounding as she cradled her mother's lifeless form. The chaos swirled around her, but she felt nothing but icy dread. The room blurred, becoming a canvas painted in fear and regret. "No," she breathed, panic gripping her throat. "Get up," Mark shouted, suddenly right there, yanking her by the arm, pulling her out of the cruel grip of reality. "We have to move, now." But Emily protested, "We can't leave her." Tears streamed down her cheeks, mingling with the blood on her hands. She was losing her. "Please, listen." Mark's voice cracked, a crack of desperation that hit her like a slap. "If we stay, we die too. They want us all. They're coming." The sound of footsteps thundering in the hallway echoed around them. Each step sent a jolt through her, a visceral reminder that time was running out. But before she could process it all, her mother's eyes fluttered open, searching. "Em," she gasped, the whisper barely escaping her lips. "Mom." Emily's voice was thick with emotion. Memories flooding back, years spent waiting for her, hoping she'd return. "But you left us. They're coming," the woman interrupted, eyes darting like a trapped animal. "You have to trust me." Shock rolled through Arthur's features, confusion painting his face. "What are you doing here?" he spat, anger boiling beneath his surface. "Get down!" the woman suddenly yelled, and before anyone could react, she lunged forward, pushing Emily to the ground, just as gunfire erupted from the hallway. Bullets ricocheted off metal filing cabinets, sending shards of metal flying. Chaos erupted anew. Shouts of confusion filled the air, bodies clamoring for safety. The masked intruders were closing in, chaos weaving through them like dark threads, anger tangible in the air. Emily's heart raced. Everything spun out of control. She had long since stopped recognizing reality. This whole moment felt like a fever dream. Her mother was here, alive, but danger loomed larger than life. "Mom, we need to go," Emily cried, pulling at her mother's arm, panic written across her face. But her mother hesitated, eyes diverting towards Mark. You shouldn't be here." "What?" Emily shouted, confusion wrapping tighter around her brain. "What's going on?" Suddenly, as if summoned, another figure slammed through the door, drenched in darkness and rage. It was a man, towering, eyes like flint. "Get away from her!" he bellowed, but his words were drowned out by the tumult. Then, in the chaos, something burst forth. The blinding light overhead flickered back to life, illuminating the horrific scene. Everyone paused, the tension strung tight. But as the light illuminated Mark, Emily's breath caught. Something was off. The desperate look in his eyes twisted into something darker, a glint that revealed the truth she never saw coming. "Mom." Mark's voice was curled with venom. "I should have finished it. Should have let them take you both." The world tilted beneath Emily's feet. Betrayal? Reality shattered like glass, leaving sharp edges everywhere, cutting deep. "Mark, no!" her voice shrieked through the chaos. But he smirked, revealing a side she'd never known. This was always about power, Em. You just didn't see it. But now, a sudden explosion erupted from the hallway. A flash of light sent everyone reeling. The force knocked Emily to the ground. The world spun, noise fading into a chaotic silence. When the dust settled, Emily's eyes blinked open. She gasped. In the center of the chaos lay not just Mark, but the figures that had just moments ago stormed in. One was pinned down, face hidden, and the other lay lifeless, a pool of blood spreading beneath him. But it was the figure standing over Mark, the imposing shadows that absorbed him, that sent chills down Emily's spine. "Do it for the family, Mark," the man barked, his voice a guttural growl that sent shivers down Emily's spine. Her breath caught. "Family?" Mark spat, rage bubbling beneath the surface. "Is that what this is?" But the man laughed, a chilling snake-like laugh that sent a jolt of dread through Emily. "You think you know the truth?" Mark's tension snapped. "Enough." "Oh, Mom!" Emily's voice broke, her reality shattering as she turned to the tall figure, the weight of recognition crashing in. "Dad?" The man took another step forward, eyes gleaming with a mixture of darkness and desperation. "You shouldn't be here either, Emily. You're supposed to be on our side." The weight of those words slammed into her. "Our side?" "Your true nature is awakening," he said, voice tense with urgency. "You are part of this. And you have no idea how much danger you are in." Emily stared, feeling the ground shift beneath her. "What are you talking about?" The words shrieked through the air, sounding foreign even to her own ears. "Listen to me." Her father's eyes were wide, demanding. "You're the key, and they need you. They want to control what's inside you." As confusion tightened like a noose around her mind, the entrance exploded with noise. Darkness flooded in. And then, like a tide rising, strange memories began to surface. A flash of light, strangers whispering, dark secrets swirling around her childhood, hidden truths buried deep. "Emily, they'll come for you," her mother cried, voice trembling. But in that moment, a deafening roar interrupted everything. A churning whirlwind of emotions swept through her, a realization hitting like a thunderclap. She staggered back, heart racing. You knew? You have been lying." "Enough," Mark's voice boomed, but his expression showed fear now, trembling, and it felt like the world cracked, splitting apart at the seams in that second. Emily stood a fracture in time, caught between loyalty and a truth too shocking to bear. "Emily." Arthur's voice pierced through the chaos. "Look out!" Everything shifted again, and then the ground gave way beneath her. The chaos swirled into blackness, swallowing her whole, leaving her desperate, lost, and grasping for something, anything, she could hold on to. The truth hung heavy in the air, unraveling, twisting, crushing, and she realized in that spiral of chaos that nothing would ever be the same again. The floodgates opened, and in that plunge into the unknown, she felt a spark of power awakening deep within herself. Emily felt the world spin as she crouched on the ground, overwhelmed by fear and disbelief. The chaos around her faded for a split second, and all that mattered was the lifeless body of her mother. Her heart pounded hard against her ribs, a relentless rhythm that echoed in her ears like a war drum. "Get up!" Mark pulled her to her feet, but she felt like she was glued to the floor. "We have to move. We don't have time." His eyes were wild, darting between the door and the dying chaos. "No, my mom!" Emily choked, still clutching her mother, the warmth fading from the blood pooling beneath her hands. She felt a lump rise in her throat, heavy and suffocating. "What am I supposed to do?" "Listen to me." He grabbed her shoulder, urgency etched in his face. "They're coming. If we don't go, we'll be next." Just then, the power flickered back. Bathed in harsh fluorescent light, the scene unfolded anew, shades of fear and disbelief painting every corner of the room. Bodies swirled around them, emotions boiling over. Shouts, cries, and the metallic taste of panic filled the air. But one voice stood out. Emily's father stepped through the swirling chaos, his face carved with fury. "Emily, get away from him!" he yelled, directed at Mark. Anger radiated off him like heat from a blazing fire. "What the hell are you doing here?" Mark shot back, tension flaring. The air crackled with electricity, their history grappling in silent shadows. "Protecting you, son. You shouldn't have returned." Emily's knees buckled beneath her. She couldn't breathe. The weight of their words crushed her, squeezing tightly around her heart. "Son?" she whispered, eyes darting between them. It felt as if the very ground had shifted below her. Mark's face twisted into a grimace. "This is your fault, Dad. You pushed me into the darkness." "Both of you, stop!" her mother gasped, barely lifting her head, pain etched deep in her features. "Emily, you need to know." Before she could finish, the door exploded inwards, the sound thunderous, chaos erupting again. Emily turned, eyes wide. A figure lurked in the shadows, cloaked in black, holding something that gleamed ominously in the flickering light. The intruder flung a device across the ground. Smoke billowed, filling the room in an instant. "Run!" Mark shouted, but panic twisted Emily's thoughts. In that puff of smoke, silhouettes tangled and fought. Arthur stood against the intruder, eyes blazing with determination. But the chaos surged, and then it happened. An explosive bang shattered the moment. Emily felt the heat wash over her. When the smoke cleared, everything changed. There lay the intruder, the weapon still clenched in his hand. And Mark's body fell next to the masked figure, eyes wide, mouth frozen in shock. "Mark!" Emily screamed, scrambling to him. She felt her world fracture again. No, 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 it couldn't end like this. The pain swelled, filling her with a swirling tide of helplessness. But then came a deafening silence. Time froze. Mark blinked slowly, and in that heartbeat, something shifted in his gaze. His jaw struck tight. "Em, you're special. You don't even know what you're capable of." The weight of those words knocked her back. The truth hung in the air like thick smoke. "What do you mean?" "Your mother, she didn't just let me go. I was chosen." Confusion clouded Emily's mind. Chosen? For what? Before he could respond, her father's voice cut through the fog, desperate and raw. "Emily, listen! Get out of here! They want to control you." Just as those words registered, she realized the weapon that had fallen from the intruder's grip was not just a gun. It was a device, glowing ominously. Emily reached for it, instinct overriding fear. Then it clicked. A surge of energy burst from the device, wrapping around her, pulling her in. The walls trembled, lights flickering violently. And in that moment, a vision flooded her mind. Memories, secrets, and fears that weren't hers danced through her thoughts. Faces twisted in pain. Shadows of betrayal. "Emily, no!" her father shouted, panic drenching his voice. But it was too late. In that flash, everything she thought she knew twisted into something monstrous. She gasped as the truth pierced her heart. She was the key, not just a throwaway pawn in their deadly game. The shock shook her to the core. Could it really be true? Confusion burned in her chest. The smoke began to clear around her, reality shifting like sand through her fingers. She stumbled back, reeling from the weight of it all. The narrative of her life, her family, everything shattered before her eyes. As the dust settled anew, Emily looked around. "I won't let you control me." Suddenly, the air crackled with energy, every breath charged with electricity. And in that moment, everything hung in the balance. Secrets rose up from the abyss, twisting lives into knots, leaving her standing at the precipice of a new, terrifying future. Emily's hands trembled, still gripping the glowing device. The chaos around her shrieked and writhed, the world spinning off its axis. Mark lay motionless, panic ricocheting off the walls of her mind. No, no! Tears streamed down her face, merging with the blood on her hands. You can't leave me like this! Time warped around her, as shadows twisted and dark laughter echoed. Her father rushed towards them, desperation painted across his face. Emily, you have to take control. They want you for what you are. What am I? She cried back, her voice breaking under the pressure. What's happening? The room felt alive with energy, buzzing like an electric storm. You're the key, he shouted, urgency bubbling in his tone. This device, it holds your power. With it, you can stop all of this. Just as she felt the weight of his words sink in, the masked figures surged forward. The air crackled with violent energy, their eyes gleaming with intent. I'm not afraid of you, Emily shouted, her voice firm, indignant. You won't control me. In a split second, she raised the device and pressed the button. Light exploded around them, blinding, radiant. A wave of heat washed over her, embracing her like a long-lost friend. The intruders slowed, confusion etched across their faces. No, one of them screamed, as shadows began to retract into the light. Emily realized she wasn't just activating the device, she was unlocking something deep inside herself. Mark managed to whisper, eyes fluttering open, filling her with a flash of hope amid the smokescreen. Don't. Stop. It's the only way. And then, in that whirlwind of chaos and power, Emily felt it, the spark igniting within her. All her pain, all her fears, they twisted together and transformed into something fierce. I won't let you take anyone else. The energy swelled, bursting like a supernova, forcing the intruders back. They collided against the walls, their shouts swallowed by the light. She felt alive, stronger than ever, as the darkness shrank and disappeared. Echoing into nothingness. Dad, Mark, she shouted. Are you okay? Hope flickered in her chest as she turned. They nodded, dazed but alive. The room fell silent. Smoke curled into the air, now replaced by a bright light that enveloped them. The shadows retreated completely, shadows of fear and betrayal shunning themselves away. Is it over? Her heart raced, still trembling from the surge of power. Not yet, Mark whispered, gazing into the emptiness, eyes still swirling with shock. There are bigger players out there. Then we'll face them together, Emily replied, the steel in her voice surprising even herself. I won't let them take any of us away again. Their eyes met, and for the first time, a flicker of understanding glimmered in the harsh shadows of a broken family. They could fight this and defeat whatever was lurking in the dark. But suddenly, a wrenching pain tore through her. She collapsed to the ground, gasping. What's happening? What's wrong? Mark scrambled to her side. All the emotions, the grief, the power of what she had just unleashed exploded within her. It felt like she was being pulled apart. I don't know. It hurts. The air thickened, and the cries of the outside world filtered back in. Sirens wailing, chaos brushing against their door. But now it felt distant, almost unreal. Hold on, Mark called, wrapping an arm around her. We'll figure this out. The device lay on the ground, still glowing faintly. Emily reached for it, energy arcing through her fingers. She was scared, but she also felt a determination ignite. The fight was just beginning. As the light surrounded her, clarity seeped through the fog. The truth resonated deep within her, but the road ahead was still shrouded in uncertainty. They had won this battle, but a war was still brewing. Suddenly, a voice shattered the moment. You thought you could escape? A figure emerged from the shadows, just beyond their reach. The figure's face was familiar, sending icy dread racing through Emily's veins. "Father?" she whispered, a knot forming in her stomach. "Yes, my child. The game has only just begun." As darkness surged back in, she knew they were far from done. You must subscribe now to catch every twist and turn of this unfolding saga. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and let your support shine through. Flood the comments below with your reactions and theories about this stunning conclusion. And don't wait one more second to share this epic story with at least 5 friends who need to know how it all unfolds. This is the moment to show your support and be part of the journey ahead.